Para quem não conhece, Jeffrey Brown é ilustrador, autor de livros infantis. Ele é o autor daquela série Darth Vader and Son, Darth Vader and Little Princess. Recentemente, ele fechou uma parceria com a Marvel, então ele está escrevendo agora para a Marvel Thor, Loki and Family Mayhem in the Midgard. Então, assim, e ele tem preparado aí algumas outras surpresas em parceria com a Disney e também com a Marvel. Então, hoje vai ser bem divertido. Abe, não estou conseguindo entrar aqui. Vou tentar de novo.
Okay, you are.
I made it. I'm all set with my smartphone. Wander vai chamar mais alguém lá? Can I start? Ok. Bom dia, Jeffrey. Como está você?
I'm good, thank you.
Hoje a gente está aqui com o auditório cheio de pequenos e grandes ilustradores para desenhar com você hoje, Jeffrey.
Very exciting.
A gente vai ter um pequeno delayzinho, porque a gente tem tradução simultânea para vocês, tá bom? Então, vamos lá. Jeffrey, diga bom dia para o pessoal, se você quiser se apresentar e dar um oi.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Brown, and my dream when I was a kid was to grow up and draw comic books, and that's what I do. I draw comics.
Jeffrey, uma vez a gente conversando, você me falou que sempre gostou muito de ler quando você era criança. O que você gostava de ler quando você era criança?
I loved reading everything. So I read science fiction books. I read books about science. And I loved comics. So I loved reading superhero comics, and I loved reading like comic strips. So one of my favorites, I'll draw really quick here, was Garfield. And one of the things
Eu
about
adoro Garfield
reading
também.
comics, so one of the ways I learned to practice drawing was I would read comics like Garfield, and then I would draw my own Garfields. And I practiced Garfield a lot, and so I still remember how to draw Garfield. So you see, you kind of start with his head, and he's got his little stripes, and then he has this nose, and behind the nose, you draw his two eyes. Those are little dots for his whiskers. And so one of the great ways to practice drawing, if you want to be a cartoonist, is to copy the drawings of the comics you like to read. And then that gives you a lot of practice. And then when you make your own characters up, then you're really good at drawing them.
Jeffrey, uma pergunta. Qual era o seu comic book preferido desses universos da Marvel e da DC?
So my favorite comic was probably X-Men, and like my favorite character was Wolverine, but I really liked all kinds of different comics. And what I love is that all the characters are so different. They have their own personalities. And so I like reading about lots of different kinds of characters and stories. But another of my favorites was Thor. And so I'll draw Thor for you. And this is little Thor from my Thor and Loki book. So Thor, I always start with his helmet. And so it's kind of like not quite a circle, but a little pointed. And you draw the bottom of the helmet with a line parallel. And then for some reason, Thor's helmet has wings on it, which when I was growing up reading Thor, that always kind of confused me because I don't know how that would, like, your helmet would just fly away, which doesn't make sense. So you draw the wings. And since my Thor is a kid, he really doesn't want to get his hair cut. So he has kind of this long hair. I draw his ear peeking out from the other side. So I draw the ear kind of right about there. And then I just get to surround it with Thor's long hair. And then kind of draw the shape of his face, and then 2 little dots for eyes and nose. And my Thor is pretty happy all the time, so we'll draw him smiling. And one of the fun things about Thor is Thor has this magic hammer, and I'll show you how to draw Thor's hammer really quick. So a really quick way to do it is just a rectangle with a line, right? But if you want to make it fancier, you add a parallel line that's just not quite as long as the ends, right, of the triangle or of the rectangle. And then connect those lines. And then add a second parallel line to make the handle, and add some detail lines. And then the handle kind of sticks out of the top. And then of course it has this little strap on the bottom. And so if you draw kind of like an oval, but then on one side of the oval, draw a parallel line. And then behind, draw another parallel line that goes inside. So that kind of makes the strap. So there's Thor's hammer.
Awesome, isn't it? E fácil quando a gente vê desenhado aí pelo Jeffrey, né? Uma coisa que eu vi, Jeffrey, que você fez aí, você desenhou o martelo do Thor a partir de formas geométricas. Como é que eu poderia desenhar algum dos personagens de Star Wars, por exemplo, a partir de uma forma geométrica? A partir daquele bonequinho de palito?
Yeah. 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 So one of the ways that, like, I drew my characters when I was really little was I would draw stick figures. And so here's your basic stick figure. And sometimes you'll hear adults say, I can't even draw a stick figure. But that's not true. Everyone can draw a stick figure. And you can actually make your stick figure even more complicated. So, and a simple way to do that is, and I'll draw kind of a simple Luke Skywalker from Darth Vader and Son. So if you start with the circle for the head, and let's give Luke his hair. And so you can see it's just kind of using the same curves from a circle, but inside the bigger circle. You do 2 dots for eyes. And for the nose, right in the middle there. All right, so there's his head. But instead of drawing a stick for the body, what you do is you can draw a rectangle. And so for Luke, he has these kind of desert clothes. And so we'll give him a belt and then draw a diagonal line across for one part of his robe and then diagonal line for the other side. All right. So he already looks like he has more of a body than a stick figure, but all you've used is the rectangle and a couple lines. Then for the legs, instead of having like your legs don't come out from the middle of your body, they come out kind of from the sides. So if you think about like that, but those are just stick legs, and we're gonna make it a little bit more realistic. So if you draw a second parallel line, so now you're kind of making these longer rectangles. And then so sometimes people draw just little lines for the feet. Instead of drawing little lines, you're going to draw kind of like a little oval. And one of the things about comics is to make something look like it's real in a comic book world, you don't have to draw it like it would look in a photograph. And so if I looked at these feet, maybe Luke Skywalker wouldn't actually be able to walk on them. But for a comic, he's totally fine. And then just to add a little bit more detail, you can add some lines right there to his legs. So now it kind of looks like he has kind of boot leggings. And then the same thing with the arms. So here it's just lines for the arms. But your arms aren't just straight out like this all the time. Our arms are curvy. And so with comics, I like to make really curvy arms. So especially for a character like Luke as a kid, where he's just kind of happy and fun and playing. So we'll kind of curve the arms. But just like we did with the legs, you can make a parallel lines. I think I've made his arms kind of long, but that's okay. And so then you just close off. Now he's got shirt sleeves. And then for the hand, so stick figures sometimes get these hands, but what I like to do, and it's gonna look really easy because I've drawn like hands like this so many times. So don't worry if your hands don't turn out right, unless you've been drawing for almost 50 years like I have. So the hands are just gonna kind of be just a simple kind of, I like to do it really fast. Maybe they look kind of a little bit like claws if you look at them closely. Now, in this hand, the thumb is behind, right? But this hand is waving, so we need to add the thumb. So I'm going to kind of add it. So if you see, I don't have to draw the thumb coming out from the side because it's kind of inside. So there's Luke's thumb. So you can see this isn't really that much more complicated than drawing a stick figure. And so if you just keep practicing, kind of going from thinking of it as a stick to a rectangle, and then add curvier arms and legs that don't come out from the middle of the body, and then parallel lines. And you can kind of use that as a basis for when you're drawing your comics, especially in rough drafts. You can kind of make simpler characters, but it still looks a lot more interesting than just just using like a traditional stick figure.
E aí, quem conseguiu desenhar o look com as dicas do Jeff? Vamos dar uma olhada? Vou mostrar aqui, Jeff, alguns desenhos para você dar uma olhada. Deixa eu abrir minha câmera aqui. Deixa eu ver aqui. Olha, Jeff, o que você está achando?
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Quem mais? Ah, olha aqui, Jeff. O que você acha? Eita,
Oh,
esse
look,
aqui tem até um sabre de luz na mão, esse
yeah.
look tem um sabre. Quem mais fez alguma coisa interessante? Deixa eu ver aqui. Aqui já tem o R2D2, ó.
Oh, and you've added R2D2. That's excellent.
Quem mais? Vamos ver aqui. Ah, aqui tem um. Ó, look at this, Jeff. Um Thor. Voando com o martelo na mão. Deixa eu ver o que a professora já fez.
Yeah.
Olha, que incrível. Mais alguém? Peraí, não vou conseguir ir em todos, mas vamos dar uma olhada aqui. Ó,
Hope I can't see that one.
you can't see?
Like, get it.
Can you see now?
Ah,
Você
there we go.
consegue ver
Yes.
agora?
Nice work.
Ah, deixa eu ver aqui. Ixi, tem gente que tem fã aqui, seu Jeff.
Oh, that one looks really well drawn.
Não tá? Olha esse aqui. Isso, temos
Great.
você tem competition, Jeffrey. Vamos lá. Vamos continuar desenhando. Eu tenho uma pergunta, Jeff. Um passarinho me disse que você acabou de lançar Thor e Loki, mas você já tem 2 novos projetos aí. Um dele, inclusive, de um comic book que você gostava muito quando você era criança, do Batman. Conta pra gente o que é esse novo projeto. E desenha o Batman pra gente, né?
Yes, sure. And so Batman's a really fun character because one of the great things about superhero comics like Batman is there's all kinds of different versions of Batman. There's some stories where Batman is very serious and some where he's a little more goofy. And in my story, Batman, so I'll draw Batman. I always start with the kind of the top of his head and then add his little bat ears. And in my story, Batman likes to think that he's pretty serious. But he's also a dad. So Batman's secret identity is Bruce Wayne. In my story, he has a son, Damian Wayne. And Damian Wayne is actually Robin, Batman's sidekick. And so there's Batman. And of course, one of the things Batman does is he tells everyone that he's Batman.
I'm Batman.
And he's very serious about it. And then, so and most of my story is it's Batman and Robin and Howard. Howard is as Damian's best friend at school. And the story is kind of about Damian and Howard's friendship, but then also how their lives are more complicated than the average middle schooler because Damian is also Robin and his dad is Batman. And the thing about dads is, and I can tell you this because I'm a dad, is that no matter how cool anyone else thinks your dad is, you probably think you probably know that your dad is actually kind of goofy and awkward. And then so my story, Batman's trying to be all super cool and serious, but to Damian, his son, he's kind of goofy and so when Batman goes around telling everybody that he's Batman, Damien's kind of rolls his eyes and he's like, "No, Dad. Yeah, we all know you're Batman because you're telling us you're Batman. You've got like this whole bat symbol on your chest. Like, we know you're Batman." And so there's Batman and Robin from my story.
Massa. Quem aí conseguiu desenhar o Batman? E o Robin? Quem conseguiu? Daqui a pouco eu vou passar pelos desenhos de novo, hein? Jeff, uma pergunta que sempre eu fico curiosa para te perguntar, e eu nunca te perguntei, vou te perguntar hoje pela primeira vez. O que fez você escolher os personagens de Star Wars, que foram os primeiros dos livros, para desenhá-los nesse cenário de dia a dia, como pai e filho, essa vida bem cotidiana? De onde veio essa ideia? E você acabou fazendo a mesma coisa com Thor e Loki, né? Está fazendo a mesma coisa com Batman. O que te fez ter essa ideia?
Yeah, so I was asked to do some sketches for Google. They had the idea of maybe for their homepage of doing an image of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, but instead of fighting with lightsabers, they just had to do something awkward every day, like shop for groceries or sit down and have family dinner. And my son was 4 at the time, so I thought it'd be really funny if I made Luke Skywalker 4. In the end, Google didn't want to use the idea, but then I was able to take it and make it a book with Lucasfilm. And so one of the things about Star Wars that I love is that humor. And so I'll draw a couple characters from Star Wars here. So the first one is this is my favorite Star Wars character, and this is Yoda. And I always start with the top of Yoda's head and then go to his ears. He has these really big ears. And then if you kind of think about it, his head as a circle, but then you stop and give him his kind of old man chin there. And I do 2 circles for Yoda's eyes. And then he has this little button nose. And then I start adding wrinkles. So, well, you have like kind of the wrinkles inside his ear. He's got wrinkles above his eyes, above his nose, next to his eyes. He's got lots of wrinkles on the top of his head. Wrinkles under his eyes. Wrinkles on his cheeks. And my Yoda is pretty happy because I like how funny Yoda is. So he's usually smiling. Got some more wrinkles on his chin. And then the final touch is just adding some kind of old man ear hair. So there's Yoda. But I've always loved Star Wars, and Star Wars still inspires me, and it's fun that they have new characters. And so one of the new characters is Grogu, who is the same kind of alien as Yoda. And a lot of people, like when he first appeared, they called him Baby Yoda. And so I kind of start the same as with Yoda for Grogu, at the top of his head and then his ears. And then his cheeks are a little bit more chubby than Yoda's, and he has like a little bit more of a cute baby chin. And his eyes, he has these really big, cute eyes. So if you draw a circle, and inside that circle, draw a smaller circle and then an even smaller circle for each, and then fill in. That gives you Grogu's really cute eyes. And he also has like a tiny cute nose, but it's like a little smaller than Yoda's even. And my Grogu, he's also pretty happy, because I think for me, watching the Mandalorian show with Grogu is kind of, there's a lot of moments where Grogu is kind of sweet and innocent and happy. So I kind of like to focus on that. So I give him a little smile and then a couple little lines so that he has cheeks. And he doesn't have as many wrinkles as Yoda. So he has maybe just 1 or 2 wrinkles above his nose, and a little bit smaller wrinkles, just a couple on the top of his head, just really small ones under the eyes. And so there's Grogu. So a lot, like, even though babies are also wrinkly, not quite as wrinkly as 900-year-old Yoda.
Eu adorei você mencionar aí o Grogu a partir do Yoda, porque você também está trabalhando numa série para o Mandaloriano, né? E como é que eu desenho o
Yes.
o mundo? Como é que a gente desenha o mundo?
So the Mandalorian is a lot more complicated, because he has all kinds of armor and detail. And so when I'm drawing my books, I have Star Wars books out with pictures of the characters. I have the show paused on my computer, and then I have maybe Mandalorian action figures to look at. But with comics, you don't have to draw every detail. You kind of simplify it. And so the really simple way to draw a Mandalorian's head or helmet is you start with just kind of a I don't know if there's a name for this shape, rectangle with a slightly curved top. So you start with that. And then we're going to make our Mandalorian helmet a little 3-dimensional. So we're going to kind of show part of the side of the helmet. And it has more detail than this. But for our drawing, you just need to draw kind of a longer rectangle along the side. And again, with like a little curve at the top. And then we got to do his visor. So we draw a line straight across here. And then because normally you would draw the line right down the middle, but because we're showing kind of 3-dimensional, so his face is kind of turned. So that instead of being right down the middle of this shape, the line is right in the middle of this space. So a little off to the side. And then you kind of thicken those up, make them wider, and then fill them in. There's kind of the visor that Mandalorian looks through. Then you're going to kind of draw a curved line on each side that goes from just a little bit below the visor and connects to a little bit to the side of the middle part. And then above the visor, you're going to draw another line, kind of the part of the top of the helmet. And then he has kind of a marking or part of the helmet that comes down the middle. And so if you think about how the helmet curves, this line is the middle. So we're going to curve that to the middle of the shape. So the middle of this space to the middle of this space. So show you like that, and then you make it parallel. So there's a really simple Mandalorian helmet. But yeah, if you look at when the book comes out, you'll be able to see that I have a lot more detail. But then if you compare my book to the TV show, there's even way more detail. But with comics, again, you don't have to worry about drawing every little detail. You can simplify things down to just a fewer lines and still recognize that this is the character.
Awesome. Vamos dar uma olhada em mais desenhos por aqui, Jeffrey. Vou abrir minha câmera. Eu tenho um Batman aqui bem pesudo. Tem até o Sonic ali. Deixa eu ver aqui. Tem o Thor lutando com o Yoda. O que mais? Aqui, deixa eu ver. Ó, tem o capacete do Mando. Consegui desenhar o capacete do Mando, consegui desenhar o Batman. Aqui tem o Yoda, Grogu e o capacete do Mando.
Yeah.
Deixa eu ver aqui.
Very nice.
Awesome. O capacete do Mando botaram a antena. Você esqueceu da antena,
Yeah.
Jeff. Deixa eu ver aqui o que mais. Nossa, a galera tá arrasando nos desenhos. Deixa eu ver o seu. Uau!
Oh, wow.
Uau!
Lauren found the skeleton of the crate dragon, I think.
Ó, que incrível! E essa galera da frente aqui que tá morrendo de rir? Deixa eu ver vocês. Cadê? Deixa eu ver o seu. Ó. Só o Yoda? O que mais?
Yeah.
Esse lado de cá. Ah, olha aí. Feel the force, Jeff. Feel the force. Mais alguém? Deixa eu ver aqui. Olha! O que você está achando, Jeff, desses artistas in the making?
They're doing great.
Né? Ah, um lembrete. Na parede da lateral do auditório tem os QR Codes. Aí eu queria que vocês tirassem foto daquele desenho que você acha que você caprichou mais, que ali vai para um painel e o Jeff vai ver e vai escolher os 3 que ele mais gosta. Os 3 que ele mais gostar vão ganhar um prêmio da gente, tá? Então, tem o QR Code ali na lateral, tirem uma foto, coloquem lá o nome de vocês e a idade no título da foto, tá bom? Vamos continuar aqui enquanto isso? A gente ainda tem uns 20 minutinhos. Jeff, você acabou de falar que para o Mando, quando você estava desenhando o Mando, que você, quando começa a desenhar o livro, você se inspira, você pega outros livros daquela saga, você pega os bonecos, né, as toy figures. Essa questão de inspiração é muito interessante, porque a gente pode se inspirar em várias fontes, né? E que você falou também que não precisa do desenho ser uma réplica perfeita das suas fontes de inspiração. Então, muitas das vezes, as crianças desenham e acham que os desenhos delas não são tão bons porque não são perfeitos, uma cópia perfeita, né? Que dica que você daria, assim, desenhando algum personagem aí para nós? 3 dicas de ouro para essa galerinha deslanchar no desenho.
Yeah, and here I'm gonna draw another thing from Thor and Loki while I talk. So one of the things that happens, especially with kids, is when you're drawing, it's really easy to get discouraged. And there's lots of different reasons. Sometimes it's you see someone else who draws really well and you think they draw way better than me. And then for some reason you think that means that you don't draw well. Or maybe someone says something like about your drawing that it might even be kind of mean, or they don't mean it to, they aren't trying to be mean, but they say it and you get discouraged about your drawing that way. Or maybe you're trying to draw something and you keep trying and it's not turning out how you wanted, or it doesn't look the way you want it to look. But that's all normal things. Even for me, like I still draw. So when I first started drawing The Mandalorian, like I had to draw lots and lots of times before I got it right. And so there's the 3 tips I would give. The first tip I would say is practice. Just practice all the time. So before I said how some adults say they can't even draw stick figures, and I say that's not true, because if you practice, you can draw way more than stick figures. And the more you practice, the better you'll get, and the less you'll get discouraged when things don't turn out right, because you realize that like even as long as I've been drawing, a lot of times I don't get the drawing right the first time I try. And so even if you have a ton of practice, you're still going to run into times where a drawing doesn't look right and you have to start over. So practice is the first key. The second thing I would say is don't spend too much time worrying about how the drawing is going to look in the end. Worry about the process. So enjoy drawing. If you're drawing and you get so worried about how it's going to turn out, you're not going to have fun drawing and you're not going to want to draw more. But if you just keep in mind that maybe it'll turn out well, maybe it won't. But if you're focused on trying your best and enjoying drawing, then the chances are it's going to turn out better. And the last piece of advice I'll say is just look at lots of other drawings and read comics if you want to be a cartoonist. You know, sometimes you might hear a teacher say that it's wrong to copy someone else's drawing. And that's not exactly true. What's wrong is if you copy someone else's drawing and then you say, this is mine, this was my idea and I drew this, and all from my own head. Like if you take credit for someone else's drawing that you copied. But copying other drawings is a great way to learn. So one of the ways I learned, like I showed you how I drew Garfield, I started out, I traced the Garfield comics, and once I had practiced enough tracing, then I started drawing them just from looking until I could draw Garfield just from my head and make up my own new Garfield comics. And then all that practice of copying Garfield or copying drawings from superhero comics, then when I was coming up with my own characters, I had a lot of practice of drawing, and it was easier. It's easier for me to draw my own characters now.
E aí, gostaram da dica do Jeff? Então, praticar, praticar, praticar. Não prestar muita atenção nas opiniões a respeito do seu desenho. né? E copiar bastante. Eu vou ver aqui, Jeff, se alguém tem uma pergunta para você no auditório. Alguém tem uma pergunta para o Jeff? Então tá, você vai dizer seu nome e vai fazer a pergunta em português, que a tradutora traduz para ele.
Oi, eu sou o Matheus. Então, eu queria falar assim. Qual foi o seu episódio que você mais gostou de Mandalorian?
Qual episódio que o Jeff mais gostou de Mandalorian?
Oh, that's a hard question because I like lots
É
of different
difícil, até eu
episodes, but
parar para
the episode that comes to mind is the episode where so there's the droid IG-11 who is introduced in the first series, and he's here. Let's see. I haven't tried to draw a super simple IG droid, but let's see if I can do it. You know, they look kind of like this.
Quem lembra desse robô da série Mandalorian?
Okay,
Ele é um dos meus
these
personagens
robots look kind of like this.
favoritos.
Yeah, so in the last season, Mandalorian builds or the other characters build for Grogu. They reconfigure the droid so that Grogu can ride in it. And he goes around saying no and yes. So Grogu kind of sits in there and he gets the control. It makes it look like he kind of has a face. Yeah, so that episode where Grogu first gets in his new droid suit is, I think, one of my favorites. And again, this shows you kind of like, so I don't remember all the details of the specific of the droid, and when I draw IG-11 in the book, it's definitely, I had lots of pictures and was like looking, and it's probably still not exactly accurate. But with comics, the important thing isn't about how accurate or detailed your drawing is, and drawing something really detailed is great, but for comics, it's all about the story, and you want to know who the characters are. And when someone's reading a comic book, you want to be able to like recognize the characters. And so if you can simplify it down, it can still be a great comic, even if it doesn't look exactly how it looks in the show.
Eu gostei porque ele desenhou aí esse robô hospedeiro, sei lá, do Grogu, meio de locomoção do Grogu, com uma sequência de quadradinhos. Vocês repararam aí? Um tanto de quadradinho, né? Uma sequência de formas geométricas, triângulo, quadrados, retângulos, né? Eu tenho mais uma pergunta para você, Jeff, da audiência.
Gabriel Couto Guimarães. Você consegue desenhar o Venom?
Alguém quer que o Jeff desenhe o Venom?
Let's see.
Let's see.
I've drawn Spider-Man before, and I know I drew Venom when I was growing up, but let's see if I can draw of Venom. And this is another thing. So I don't have a picture of Venom, so we'll see. I know. And sometimes I mean, in the comics that I read, Venom was kind of the villain. And I don't know if he's just a villain these days. I think he's kind of not quite as much as a bad guy. But something like this, does he have a red tongue? I don't know. And then you fill it in. There's Venom.
Enquanto o Jeff termina de desenhar o Venom, lembrem de postar a foto dos seus desenhos no Padlet, no QR Code que está aí nas paredes do auditório, tá? Tiram a foto e postem lá, porque daqui a pouco o Jeff vai dar uma olhadinha e escolher os 3 favoritos dele.
This is Spider-Man to go with Venom.
Ok. Mais uma pergunta no auditório? Quem quer fazer uma pergunta para o Jeffrey? Quer fazer uma pergunta? Aqui, quem quer fazer uma pergunta para o Jeffrey? Na turma do Ricardo, a Patrícia quer fazer uma pergunta. Make Ricardo proud. Pode ser em português.
Quando é que você vem, Patrícia, professora? Quando é que você vem para o Brasil?
I don't know. I've never been, so maybe sometime. It's nice that I've finally been able to travel again, so maybe it won't be so long.
Meu nome é Jordana e eu quero fazer uma pergunta se você sabe fazer a Wandinha.
Wednesday.
7.
A Jordana tem
All
7.
right, that's
A ver se o Jeff consegue fazer a Wandinha.
all right. Let's see if I can draw Wednesday. So for Wednesday, let's kind of start with the bottom of her face, so kind of like that. And then I'm going to draw her ears. And then I'm going to do the top of her head. And so she has, and forgive me if I'm misremembering, but I think she has like a part down the middle of her hair. Kind of like that. And then does she have pigtails? I don't remember. And then, but I know her face is kind of.
Isso, né?
She's very serious. And then maybe she
Isso é
has.
verdade. A Wandinha está sempre muito séria.
She has her school uniform, I guess. Feel okay about it. So Wednesday is another one that
E
so
aí,
that's the
Jordana, o que
first
você
time I've
achou?
ever drawn
Ah,
Wednesday,
eu
so I
vou
would
mostrar o desenho da Jordana que ela fez junto com o Jeff. Peraí, deixa eu abrir minha câmera aqui. Vamos dar uma última passeada nos desenhos. Peraí, que eu estou abrindo minha câmera. Mostra para mim, Jordana, a Vandinha.
Yeah. He's got to finish it.
Show me, Jordana.
Oh yeah. So I need to
Jordana.
learn. So her hair is like braided, I guess, and comes down longer. Maybe.
Isso.
I think your Wednesday is better than mine.
Nossa, a Vandinha ficou melhor que a do Jeff, ele acha. Ah, o nosso tempo está aqui acabando. O nosso tempo está aqui acabando. Eu queria que o Abraão passasse aí o Padlet para o Jeff dar uma olhada, para a gente ver. Quem colocou o desenho lá no Padlet? Jordana, coloca seu desenho lá no Padlet também. E assim, não é prêmio por lugar. O Jeff vai simplesmente escolher os desenhos que ele prefere, que ele gosta mais. Ali, ó, aquele QR Code. O QR Code é só escanear o QR Code que está aí nas paredes e subir a foto. Jeff vai escolher os 3 desenhos que mais ele vai chamar a atenção dele. Lembre de colocar o nome e a idade de vocês, tá? No título da postagenzinha.
Oh, these are all so good.
E aí, Jeff? Olha o meu Grogu ali, ó, o meu primeiro foi eu que fiz. Eu tenho 15 anos de idade. Nossa, tem muito desenho bacana. Ixi, Jeff, você vai ter dificuldades aí de escolher 3 preferidos.
Mas eu não sei como
Aí
é que
você clica no maisinho. Licença, tá? Aí você põe o nome e a idade dela e aí faz o upload da idade. Quando você entra no Padlet, tem um maisinho logo na parte de baixo da tela do celular, você clica nesse maisinho e aí consegue fazer o upload, tá? No título da postagem, você coloca seu nome e a idade. Todo mundo já colocou?
fazer o upload.
Mas aí você pode editar.
Peraí.
Conseguiu?
Peraí.
Esse aqui, pessoal, é o piloto. Não sei se escolhe da onde. E aí, amigo? O Jeff está ali, olhando os desenhos no nosso painel
They're
digital.
so good.
E está na difícil função de escolher os 3 preferidos dele.
Os 3?
É, ele vai escolher 3.
there's still more coming. Can I talk about some of these as I'm picking? I just
Com
noticed.
certeza.
All right, so I see a much more accurate Venom, and I really appreciate that is looks way more like Venom than my Venom. I also I wish I had abs like that in Carlos's drawing. Carlos has drawn a picture of me, and I have been working out in his story
Wow!
of me.
Ó, outra bandinha ali da Mariana também.
Mariana, fez muito legal. Eu adorei o da Júlia.
Hoje esse time aí botou o Jeff para desenhar,
Que
Wander.
bacana. Teve gente?
Jogaram os desafios para ele, pediram para ele desenhar o Venom, pediram para ele desenhar a Wandinha
No freestyle.
no freestyle.
Jeffrey, o que você está achando? São estilos diferentes, personagens diferentes. Muito bacana.
It's great to see, and one of the things I love, and if everyone else can see them all, what's great is everyone is kind of
A gente
taking
tá
the same start, but making it their own, and that's one of the really great things about comics. So like you even after you've copied other characters or someone else's comics, you start to add your own style and turn it into your own thing. So I'm glad to see that everyone here is kind of doing that. But should I pick a few favorites? And I mean, I like them all. So if you
prêmio para os seus 3 prediletos.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, so Gabriel Couto, 12 years.
Gabriel,
I-
de 12
and what I-
anos.
What I
Cadê
love,
Gabriel, 10 anos, cadê?
yeah, so what I love is that
Vem cá,
he-
Gabriel.
he's added
Gabriel
this-
fez o Venom.
the skeleton, and so it's not just drawings, but there's some story happening there where Mandalorian has encountered some creatures and he's found some things. And so I like that. One of the fun things about comics is you don't need a lot to turn like a simple drawing into a whole story. And then another one that really caught my eye was Yuri Trefner, 9 years old.
Jeffrey,
And I
Mariana,
love
só
all
um
the
pouquinho pro Jeffrey.
all the
Jeffrey,
work.
o que você gostou no desenho do Gabriel? O que você poderia destacar? Ele está aqui na frente para receber o prêmio dele.
Sure. I love the adding the skeleton and kind of adding some other elements that kind of turn it from just a drawing of Mandalorian into more of a story. And so one of the things about drawing comics is you can start to build a story just from one simple drawing, just how your character is standing and looking. And so it even looks like Mandalorian is looking at the skeleton that's there, and kind of you when you see that drawing, you start to think, what's the story behind that? Like, did he just find that skeleton? And so if that's a comic, you want to read more.
Muito obrigado, Jeffrey. Vamos fazer uma foto rapidão, Gabriel. Valeu. Obrigado, Gabriel. Qual é o prêmio, gente? É importante dizer. Eu e Soraya fizemos uma curadoria. Então, The Great Adventure in the World são contos da mitologia desenhados por esses craques aqui do Tony Brandon e Tony Ross, são conhecidíssimos desenhistas e autores americanos, então eles adaptaram e a gente tem a coleção completa do que eles fizeram. Esse está sendo o prêmio para vocês, tá bom? Jeffrey, seu segundo desenho, você ia falar. Qual foi que você chamou a atenção?
So Yuri Trefner, 9 years.
Yuri? Whoa!
And so
Great job.
what caught my eye.
Isso.
What I love is how much color you added, and like there's even the shadow kind of Mandalorian kind of he seems kind of mysterious. And again, it's a drawing where it's the Mandalorian, but it feels like there's more of a story there. There's something happening. But I really love all the coloring and the detail, and you can tell you put a lot of work into it. And so even if you think your drawing's not as good as someone else's, if you keep putting that much work into it, eventually like you'll be the one making the drawings that people think like are really good.
Thank you. E vamos para o terceiro, então. Parabéns. Obrigado, Yuri. Então, chegamos na terceira escolha do Jeffrey. Então, qual foi que você achou mais interessante também, Jeffrey, para a gente finalizar?
I'm going to say Jordana, 7 years. Her Wednesday.
Jordana, 7 anos. Ah, que legal, Jordana! Parabéns! Que lindo!
And I just really liked the expression that Wednesday has there. Like it feels like very much like her character in the TV show and movies. And so it's really fun that one of the great things about comics is how expressive they are, how much they capture emotions and feelings. And so I think you did a really good job catching that.
Uou! Parabéns, Jordana! Uma foto? Thank you so much. Thank you. Obrigado, viu, Jordana? Continue desenhando. Thank you, Jeffrey. So, we are finishing?
I'm sad to say so. E aí, pessoal, vocês gostaram de desenhar com o Jeff hoje?
Eu quero fazer, antes da gente terminar, antes da Soraya dar as últimas palavras, eu queria convidar vocês para o ano que vem, no Thomas Geek Fest, com muita energia e com muita força, a gente tentar fazer uma oficina presencial com o Jeffrey, aqui na casa do Thomas Jefferson. Então, quem participou já está convidado. Nós vamos convidar a embaixada para ser patrocinadora desse evento novamente. Então, você é convidado e convidada. Jeffrey, mande as suas últimas palavras aqui para a nossa audiência que adorou participar com você nessa oficina.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, and I really enjoyed seeing all your drawings. It's when you're a cartoonist, you spend a lot of time just drawing by yourself, and so it's always really fun to draw with other people and see you all be inspired to draw and make your own comics. And so I hope you all keep drawing and creating.
Muito obrigada, Jeff. Muito obrigada, Mari, pela tradução simultânea. Obrigada a todo mundo que se juntou a gente hoje, nessa manhã de sábado. Queria convidar para vocês ficarem aí mais um pouquinho, porque a gente vai ter os prêmios de cosplay, não vamos?
Exatamente, daqui 10 minutinhos a gente começa, vai ser uma premiação rápida. Gente, ainda temos food trucks lá no estacionamento, então quem estiver com fome, com sede,
Isso.
açaí, paleta mexicana, hambúrguer.
Jeff,
Muito obrigado.
muito obrigada por ter vindo e, assim,
Thank you.
iluminar o nosso evento de hoje. Mais uma vez, você é um querido, um artista incrível, e a gente espera poder ter você ano que vem aqui presencialmente, viu? Eu quero agradecer
Fingers
também
crossed.
a Embaixada Americana por ter proporcionado a oportunidade da gente ter o Jeff aqui com a gente hoje, apoiado esse evento. Fiquem aí para o próximo, para a premiação dos cosplay. E lembrando, ainda tem coisa acontecendo lá no estacionamento da L2, os food trucks, tem comida, uma ótima oportunidade para a gente já almoçar por aqui e ainda ficar mais um pouquinho junto. Tá bom? Obrigada, gente.